Hi everyone, welcome to lab exercise 7.2, where we will be talking about the musculoskeletal system. As always, if you're taking biology online, you can scan this QR code and you will get to this PowerPoint, which is supposed to be appropriate for cell phones. The video for this week's lab will go here, but what I want you to do is go ahead and click next. Now we have a menu of 6 different stations, and you notice that today's lab is written in stations. So in face-to-face, what we're doing is rotating from station to station, but online, let's just go in order. So station number 1 is the muscular system. If we click on number 1, the only thing here is this guy. It's the same as if you scan this code right here. So you can click on him and you will go to an interactive website where you can look at a human muscle system, or you can go to the 3D and you can kind of interact and look for these different muscles. Let's wait for it to load. Okay, so we have all of these different muscles, and you can zoom in and you can even take away layers, but all of these muscles should be superficial. So what I want you to do is go through and identify each of these muscles on this human. These are all the active muscles that you can learn for this class, or that can be tested for this class. So this is a nice comprehensive list. Now you won't be able to get the secret message because the secret message is on our real example in the lab. I have little invisible letters on each of these muscles, and then the students identify those invisible letters, which spells out anatomy is so awesome. But it's still important for you to go through and identify each one of these muscles, because the quiz will ask you about the muscles or show you a picture of the muscle and you'd have to identify it. All right, let's go back to our menu and click on station number 2. Station number 2 is about muscle cells. It's 2 parts, so there's a next part as well. This first section is asking about these 3 different kinds of muscle tissues. So you're going to look at this diagram and you'll have to turn your phone on its side and identify the skeletal muscle, the smooth muscle, or the cardiac muscle. And you can even zoom in so that you can compare all of the different information here. What I want you to do is identify each of these pictures as either skeletal, smooth, or cardiac, and then write down 2 things that you recognize in this picture. So in this picture, for instance, I see the nuclei are very spread out. So I know that this is only mononucleated. And I see these dark lines. These dark lines are called intercalated discs. Another thing that I see in this picture is a branched pattern, like some of these lines branch and some of them don't. And I also see striations, or those up and down stripes. So any of those items you could list down here. The second part of this section, if you click the next button, then you will get this diagram and you will be able to label this picture, find the I band, the H zone, the A band, the Z disc, the M line, the whole muscle fiber, which one of these is the fiber, which one is the sarcolemma, which one is the myofibril, and which one is the sarcomere. If you scan this QR code, you'll come to a page with information about muscle contractions, but I like this diagram because everything is all in one place and you can identify them very easily. Again, this is tested information in lab and lecture, so it's to your benefit to go through this information, and you may have to answer questions about it for your quiz. If you'd like to review the muscular system, you can scan this QR code and go to a game that will test your knowledge about the muscle system. All right, let's go back to the menu and go to station number 3. Station number 3 is just this section right here. There's no activity for the online students. In person, I have all of the bones of the whole human body just sitting on the table or like in a bucket, and the students will scan this QR code, which will go to an interactive skeleton. and they have to use this interactive skeleton as a map to build their own skeleton. So what I would like you to do as an online student, or maybe you were absent and you're completing the assignment online, is go through and just get familiar with these bones. You don't have to memorize every single bone, but being familiar with the major bones would be very important. So for instance, for the skull, as long as you know that the skull is called the cranium and you know the maxilla, the mandible, and that's pretty much it, you should be good with the skull. For the vertebra, there are 3 major types of vertebra. You don't have to memorize every single vertebra. For the hands and feet, if you know the general name of the bones in the hand, then you're good. You don't have to memorize the name of each and every one of these bones, just as long as we know that these are the carpals, the metacarpals, and the phalanges. So go through this interactive website and try to identify those different bones. All of these are testable. But if we go to station number 4, we are talking specifically about those vertebra and bone physiology. So I want you to look at these 3 pictures and identify whether it is a cervical or a neck vertebrae, a thoracic vertebrae that connects to your ribs, or a lumbar vertebrae. So identify each one of these, and I want you to make a mental note of the different characteristics or the unique characteristics of each one. For instance, you see these transverse foramen on only the cervical vertebrae. Also, the cervical vertebrae, the spinous process, has 2 tails, or we call it a bifid, kind of like a snake tongue. It's forked at the end. So make sure that you are able to identify each of these different kinds of vertebra. Now, on the next page, we have 2 different kinds of bone. We have the compact bone and the spongy bone. So on this image, we also have compact bone and spongy bone, and you need to identify those. But we have 2 different kinds of spongy bone. So one of these examples is healthy bone, and one of these examples is osteoporosis bone. So I want you to identify those as well and be thinking about how that might affect somebody with that disease. Osteoporosis is usually going to affect elderly women who have already gone through menopause. After a woman goes through menopause, she no longer is producing as many hormones such as estrogen, which really helps you absorb calcium. So this is due to calcium deficiency. Your body literally steals the calcium from your bones because you need it in other places as well. So that is where you get this kind of osteoporosis, spongy bone that is very porous and very weak. If you would like to review the skeletal system, you can scan this QR code and play the skeletal system game. Next is Station 5. Station 5 is all about epithelia. Now, epithelia is named based on the number of layers, the shape, and any specialized features. So here I have a bunch of different types of epithelia tissue. I would like you to choose 3 different ones, draw a picture of it, and then name it. One of the most interesting that I think of is simple cuboidal. You can zoom in on that image and see the simple cuboidal cells arranged in little circles because they normally make up the lining of ducts, like in the kidneys. So observe each of these different types and then draw a picture of 3 of them and identify them. The same thing with Station 6, cell specialization. I have many different types of cells here. You can zoom in and explore each one and then pick 3 and draw them. Each of these cells is highly specialized for a different kind of job. They all started out as stem cells, but eventually we want to grow and specialize, so our tissues become hyperspecific. At the end, this is an optional activity I thought was interesting, but I haven't added it to the grade book or anything. It's a coloring activity where you can kind of review all of this different information by drawing a cell from each one of these different places. So blood cells, versus pseudostratified epithelium, which is normally found in the lungs, versus cuboidal epithelium, versus muscle cells or bone cells, or even simple squamous epithelium that you see in the lining of blood vessels. So that is it for 7.2. Don't forget to take your 7.2 Open Note lab quiz. Have a great day.